So it is Manchester United 1, Aston Villa 2, and for me, this is the most frustrating result of the season, simply due to the fact that I actually thought that Manchester United were by far and away the better side over the course of the 90 minutes. There have been games this season where Manchester United have left points on the table, and I thought, you know what, fair enough. Perhaps the other team created more chances. Maybe United weren't clinical enough on the day, but I just thought over the course of the 90, United were really by far the better team in my opinion, and two moments of brilliance. You could argue two lapses of concentration from Manchester United side ends up in two Morgan Rogers goals, and Aston Villa win their 10th in a row. Pretty incredible stuff what they're doing over there at Villa Park, but we're going to get into exactly what happened in this game. We're going to break it down tactically. We're going to analyze where things went well and where things went wrong. So let's just dive into the video. So we all know that United are missing three pretty key players due to AFCON, so no Mazraoui, and of course, no Ahmad and no Brian Mbeumo. There was a lot of conversation, is Kobe going to start in today's game? Obviously, Casemiro suspended, a real opportunity for him to get a full 90, and he picks up a knock in training. Extremely unfortunate. Ruben went with Lamens in goal, a back five, if you will. It wasn't necessarily a back five of Diogo Dalot, Lenny Yoro, Aiden Heaven, Luke Shaw, and Patrick Dorgu. The midfield two was Manuel Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes, and then he went with the Cunha, Mount in the 10s, and Sesko in the 9. For Villa, it was Emi Martinez in goal. He went with Matty Cash, Konsa, Lindelof, and Matson as the back four, Onana and Kamara as the pivot players. Yuri Tillemans in that 10-8 role, more advanced, and then he had McGinn and Rogers holding width, if you will, with Ollie Watkins playing in the number 9 position. So I was really interested to see what the build-up was going to look like. Obviously, Ugarte in midfield. Again, Patrick Dorgu as the wing-back, no Ahmad and no Mbeumo, so I was interested to see what it looked like on the right side with Mount playing in that right 10, Cunha playing in the left 10. I think a lot of the things that Manchester United were trying to do and build up were good. However, I think this game in particular really magnified the fact that Manchester United lacked certain qualities to take this team to the next level, and I want to talk about it. So Villa were pretty passive in the press. They let United have the ball, and obviously we know that it's been a theme that Manchester United tend to struggle when they are the team that has to dominate possession. But I actually thought that the setup for United was good, the execution not so good. So what we saw a lot was the front three would be McGinn, would be Tillemans, and would be Ollie Watkins. And you can see here that Morgan Rogers is kind of stepping off, trying to deny any progression through to Dalot. And essentially, this is what it looked like when United were trying to build through the middle phase. So what we've learned anyways with the injuries that Manchester United have had in the back line, with Harry Maguire and Matthijs de Ligt specifically being out, is that Aiden Heaven is a very capable center half in this system because of how comfortable he is at carrying the ball into these areas here and drawing in players and playing in the free man. Or B, what we saw in this game was he was very patient, and he would draw Tillemans in, and that would leave Ugarte in this space alone. Now, the only problem is we know that Ugarte is not necessarily a player who's going to receive the ball here on the half space and carry and play through the lines. We know that he's more of a player who likes to break up play. He's not the most confident even getting on the half turn here. And of course, we know the amount of ground that Onana can cover. So it wasn't the best situation for Manchester United when getting this ball into this area, which is why Kobe, in my opinion, was such a big miss, because one of Kobe's best qualities is receiving the ball in this area and then turning and facing and pushing forward. And United were really struggling to progress with Ugarte in particular in that midfield position. And exactly what I'm talking about is made evident here. So Aiden Heaven being very patient, waiting to draw Tillemans out. You can see Bruno here in the space, and you can see the 5 across the line. So it's essentially a 5v4 because Morgan Rogers doesn't really want to track back and drop. So Cash is wary of Cunha, Konsa and Lindelof marking Sesko, Mount making that run. It's a recipe for success if United can play the right passes. Unfortunately, what happens is Heaven plays the ball into Ugarte, which is the right decision. Ugarte needs to have a cleaner touch here, needs to face forward and drive. Instead, it's a loose touch, and Aston Villa end up coming the other way and actually forcing a save from Lemens. And the reality is this situation should never end up in United transitioning to defense. It should be Ugarte has enough time and space here to pick his head up and either drive or play a pass through the lines. And unfortunately, again, we saw some of the limitations that he has in that midfield position. Again, the problem, in my opinion, and people say that Bruno plays too deep in Ruben Amorim's system, is Bruno is the best passer that this side has by far. And what that means is if you have him more advanced, it becomes a little bit easier for teams to mark him because he's kind of just waiting to pick up the ball in these spaces. But what United did to counter that was obviously Matty Cash is very aware that Matheus Cunha likes to drop into the space. And what that does is it creates balls to be played over the top for a Patrick Dorgu. However, I didn't think United did a good enough job of exploiting those passes into that space. And a lot of the possession that United had actually was in front of Aston Villa. And I think that was because they lacked the creativity in midfield with Ugarte Bruno pivot, which led to a lot more directness, even though I know that's how United play. But United really struggled to build through the central areas, and it was made evident in majority of the game. Again, you can see here the three with Shaw, Heaven, and Euro, and this is how Villa were. They were going with three, but they were quite passive. Ugarte's trying to find spaces in here to get on the half turn and play. But I felt like the United players, especially after that first pass rate in Heaven, you almost felt a reluctancy for them to play those balls through the lines to Ugarte because they were worried, is he going to be able to get on the half turn and play forward? And a lot of the times, Aston Villa, I thought, to be fair to them, did a pretty good job of marking Bruno out of the game. Onana was quite good, I thought, but Matheus Cunha was the danger man and dropping into these pockets of space here and receiving, which we all know is what he likes to do. So I want to talk about the left-sided challenges that Manchester United have and made it quite obvious with Dalot having to go and play on the right side. Manchester United desperately need, in my opinion, a right-footed player to play the wing-back position. And they need someone who's a lot more dynamic in those 1v1 areas. And here's what I mean by that. So when I speak about left-sided issues, there are two things in particular that I mean that come up a lot in games that are so obvious that hinder Manchester United's both build-up and them in the final third. First issue is build-up. A lot of times what happens is the ball will be played out to the left center half, which is Luke Shaw most often than not, and then he will play the ball into Patrick Dorgu. The issue with this is typically the angle in which Patrick Dorgu is receiving possession. He is not very comfortable on his weak foot, which is his right foot, and essentially this is always how he receives the ball. His hips facing towards his own goal, but not in a comfortable position. You can see Matty Cash here is really quick to close him down, and it doesn't necessarily give United and Dorgu in particular the ability to hit the ball into the channel as Ruben Amorim likes, because he's not comfortable swinging that right foot across and playing those balls over the top. So typically what he'll do is he'll receive here, and what Dorgu likes to do a lot is he likes to position himself to try and draw fouls, but a lot of the times he doesn't draw those fouls. The opposition, will kind of win the ball back, and then we can see how that can be dangerous in moments like this. It didn't happen here, but it is something that we have seen kind of happen in the past. And for me, this is the biggest issue one of the biggest issues, I should say, with Manchester United right now. And again, this is not a dig at Patrick Dorgu. Football is a team game. There's 11 players on the pitch for a reason. But when you get into a situation like this, and we have seen it on the other side, when Ahmad gets the ball in this exact position on the other side, he creates chaos for the opposition. He goes 1v1, he takes them on. Either he cuts inside and gets a shot off, makes the keeper make a save, maybe he misses the net, or he'll take it down the line, get a cross in, bodies are on the box. Good things happen when you put the ball into these areas here. The reality is, with Patrick Dorgu in this situation, and I want to really talk about this specific situation because I think this picture here is the perfect picture to describe what I'm talking about. It is just so easy for the defender here because he knows he's not a threat to cut in here. So Kamara is just ready to jump to Bruno if and when he plays the ball. He doesn't on this occasion. All Patrick Dorgu is ever going to do is he's either going to A, play the ball into Bruno, and then Bruno's going to whip a ball here into the back post for the runners to run into and try and score at the back post, or Dorgu's going to try and take it down the line. And the amount of times you see Dorgu try to get down the line, get across it, and it's blocked because the defenders already know what he's going to do. Very frustrating. And I think this is exactly why Manchester United need to go and get a player who can be like an Ahmad for the left wing back position. Obviously, they're being linked to Semenyo from Bournemouth. Maybe that'll happen in the January window. But this is a massive issue for Manchester United, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the off-the-ball shape, because for me, I thought that this was one of Manchester United's best games in terms of what they were doing off the ball. I thought they were superb. So, Dorgu and Dalot off the ball when Villa had the ball were very proactive, very aggressive. You can see how high Dorgu is here. Diogo off the ball was essentially acting as a right winger. You can see Bruno and Mason Mount here kind of playing as a 2, and then Ugarte playing as the anchor behind. But I thought what they were doing, forcing Villa to go long, there were only a couple of times where Villa were able to play through. I thought it was really, really good from all the boys. And I think, when you look at the team sheet, you think it's probably a back 5, Diogo Dalot, Dorgu as the wing backs, and the 3 of Shaw, Heaven, and Euro. But realistically, what it was there was a diamond kind of in midfield with Bruno, Mount, Dalot, and Ugarte, and then Lenny Euro was responsible for, marking essentially Morgan Rogers. You have Aiden Heaven, Luke Shaw as a 2, marking Ollie Watkins, so you have a +1 here, and then Dorgu playing as a left back, off the ball, of course. And this is why Dorgu does offer some good things. It's not all good, it's not all bad, but this is where the goal comes from. United do a really good job of pressing really well. Dorgu steps in at the right time. He dispossesses Cash and Cunha in all the space, and I mean, it's not exactly an easy finish. I know he's really close to the goal here, but from that angle, he still has a lot to do. Opens his hips, puts it far post. It's a great finish, great goal. Manchester United, in my opinion, what I said anyways during the game was fully deserves. I thought Manchester United were by far the better team in the first half, and I feel like a draw was the least that they deserved, and it felt good going into the half, at least all tied up at 1. But again, football is football is a game of chances, and United missed a couple. Big ones, I would argue. First one here, this is just a long ball from Bruno that finds its way to Benjamin Sesko, and I know Emi Martinez does a good job of making himself big here, but you just need to find a way to put this ball in the back of the net. It's a big moment. Once again, Sesko in this area, you need your striker to score. You're not always going to get a ton of chances as number 9 in the Premier League, and Emi Martinez makes a save. Again here, Matheus Cunha plays a really good slip ball into Benjamin Sesko, and his touch is just so heavy. He has to run and keep it in for a throw-in because of his first touch. And it's, you can say, Gabe, you're being a little bit harsh, but it's the moments of decisiveness. It's important, and Manchester United just don't capitalize. And it feels like a lot of times United have chances in games, big chances in games, and they continue not to capitalize. But one time that Patrick Dorgu puts in a peach of a cross, Matheus Cunha with the entire goal to aim at, puts it wide. Just a really tough night in front of goal for Manchester United, to say the least, and that's why they don't walk away from this game with anything. Now I just want to talk about the defending. The defending, if you want to call it defending, because to me this is not defending. And there were early warning signs that Morgan Rogers was going to cause United problems, and you can see here where he picks up the ball. He's one-on-one with Lenny Euro. Look at where United are. Morgan Rogers is a good player, but this just shouldn't be happening. And if you give a player of Rogers' quality this amount of space and time outside the 18, he is going to make you pay, and that's exactly what he did. Now, he didn't score in this particular chance, but we know exactly what happened following these moments. Now, this one, I believe it's McGinn plays a ball where it almost goes out of play. Rogers does a pretty good job, to be fair to him, to keep the ball in. Lenny Euro here is 1v1. And again, Euro doesn't get tight enough to Rogers. Now, fair play to Rogers. It's a brilliant strike, but someone needs to close him down. I don't know why no one is stepping into that space as well, whether it's Ugarte. I don't know. But someone needs to do a better job of closing him down. You cannot give players of this quality time and space in the 18 at this level. They will punish you. Rogers finds the net, and this was the goal that made it 1-0. Now, this goal for me is way more disappointing than the first one, and it's because it's a collective of errors, in my opinion, from everyone involved. So you can see Dorgu stepping out to press. Ugarte is responsible for Kamara, and McGinn sees the empty space because Dorgu has vacated it, which means Luke Shaw has to step out and go play and defend in the left channel. So pay attention to, most specifically here, Ugarte and Kamara. Now look where Ugarte is, and now look where Kamara is. How he has managed to slip in behind and find this much space, I don't understand. And Kamara actually overhits this pass to Tielemans, and you're like, okay, luckily enough for United, they have kind of wasted that chance. Of course not. What happens is the ball ends up down the line, and there is just no way that Diogo Dalot can let this cross come in cleanly from Tielemans. It just cannot happen, should never happen, impossible. Lenny Yoro gets nowhere near Rodgers again. Look, he's a young center half. He has a lot to learn. He has been good. But the reality is, when you're playing for United, when you're playing in the Premier League, one little mistake and you're going to get punished. And that's exactly what happens here. I'm a big fan of the kid. I think he has a great future ahead of him. But we have to be honest. If we're going to talk about, specific players when they make mistakes, we have to be honest about every player that puts on the shirt. And this just isn't good enough defending. I also think the positioning here from Lemens isn't good. Look how much net Rodgers has to aim at. Lemens needs to take another step out because the chances of him hitting this ball to the near post with Aiden Heaven right here are very slim. He's opening up his hips. We've seen what he wants to do already in the past. In this game, twice, he's going for that post. Lemens has to take a step over. Yoro has to close him down. It is just a bunch of mistakes as a collective. It's not just one player. It's a group of players. And they're just goals that are so avoidable and they don't need to happen, and it's United's fault that they happen. So that's that. United leave Villa Park with 0 points. And what's the most frustrating thing about the game, aside from the loss, is Bruno Fernandes apparently may be out for about a month. Kobe probably won't be able to play against Newcastle, according to Ruben Amorim. Obviously, you don't have Mbumo, Ahmad, or Mazraoui, so I have no idea what Ruben Amorim is going to do with his starting 11, but it's just really frustrating because the opportunities continue to be there for a Champions League spot. They continue to be there because the rest of the league, aside from Arsenal and City, you can argue no one has really been at the level. Obviously, Villa have been on fire, but there is so much opportunity for Manchester United to make something of the season, and they keep letting opportunities slip. And how frustrating is that? That is it for this one. I appreciate everybody who gives the content a watch. Remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. And let me know what you thought about the game. What were your opinions? Did United deserve more? Were Villa the better side? And let me know what you think heading into the Newcastle game. Also, if you have any recommendations or you have any games that you want me to analyze and walk through, remember to drop them down in the comments down below. I'll chat to y'all again very soon. Until next time, peace.